So, hello if you're here, and hello if you're watching later. I'll take my glasses off for the moment. So, we have been on a quite a few weeks journey with Pallas Athena, and
Well,
I'm just. Can you mute, Pat? You're not muted, so
oh,
you'll.
sorry.
It's okay. You'll jump up on the recording if you if you're not muted. Okay, so yeah, so we've gone through the shadow, the gift, and this week we're going to talk about the city of Pallas Athena. So for myself, I kind of touch into cities. Sometimes I can evoke cities, other times they just seem a million miles away. So wherever you are with the cities, just speak from your experience, really, when we get to the sharing bit. Um, so I'm gonna, I haven't got a visual presentation, but I thought I'd share a couple of stories. One is from when I was an adoptive mother, and I had a really powerful healing and transmission with Pallas Athena. And the other is about a character in a book that I'm reading. Oh, I just saw Tara said uh, my link isn't working. I'll just say, let me just say, ah, it's going to be one of those interruptus days. I can just tell. Okay, so Um, let me begin with the story, which just kind of came to me in the week. So I had this experience, it's probably about 15 years ago now. Um, and it just kind of popped up in my head when I was in meditation, and I thought, oh wow, yeah, that was such a powerful experience. And sometimes we can, even though it's my experience, I think through the kind of reflection of our lives in the single consciousness that we are, we can receive something from that story for ourselves. So at the time, I had an adopted son. Um, he was probably about 8 at the time. And it was a very tumultuous time and experience trying to be the mother of this very damaged child from his early childhood. I'd got him when he was 5. Um, and kind of when he was 5, things at school were people accept more when you're 5, and as he started to get older, his behaviors became more and more kind of unacceptable in the school and to other parents, and it was very stressful to be in this mother role because almost by he remembered his mother for a start. He'd up until the adoption, he was seeing her quite regularly. So um, he already had a mother, and and so this was kind of quite a leap for him to now engage with this new mother. Um, anyway, it was very stressful, and at the time, I was part of a group. We called ourselves the Wolf Clan. We were about 6 women. And we used to go walking out in the wilderness where I lived, and we would do medicine walks. So on this particular day, I asked for the medicine of something to help me with my son. And I found myself in a pine forest. And the pine forest, as you know, we all know pine trees. So just feeling into the pine tree, it's a huge structure, um, very strong. And also they tend to grow in forests, don't they? Pine trees as well. So there's these the kind of they appeared in my inner vision like an army, the pine trees. And and this transmission came very clearly, and it was from Pallas Athena. And what she was saying is rather than try to be a mother, which is a very emotional connection with a child, is to see myself as a spiritual guardian of him. And that if I could stay in that role, I would find it a lot less stressful. And I kind of experienced that of moving out of the emotional astral realm into the higher mind. And I wasn't always able to stay there, but certainly after that experience, I started to view what I was doing really differently. And shortly after this wonderful walk, which really strengthened me, that I could literally feel the strength of these trees as medicine in my body, I came across a Buddhist story. You may well have heard this. In fact, I think it might be in the Gene Keys somewhere, but I can't remember where. And the story is of a Buddhist monk um, living on the outskirts of a little village in China. And a young girl gets pregnant with her boyfriend. But the girl doesn't want to get in trouble and she doesn't want her boyfriend to get in trouble. So she blames the monk. She says, it's him who made me pregnant. So the village are outraged and the baby is taken from the mother and given to the monk, who's told to look after it. And, you know, he's really outcast. Everyone hates him from that day forward. Anyway, years pass and the child might be like 7 now when the girl finally tells everyone that she lied. And actually what happened is she got pregnant with a boyfriend, and so the village then go and take the child back from the monk. And the monk is like in this enlightened state. So he just releases the child back. And while he has the child, he's sort of very free from resentment, and he becomes a spiritual guardian. So I kind of had a living story on which to really tune into this. And the thing about it's quite interesting because my son's behaviors were the way they were because of attachment to problems. And yet there's this thing about non-detachment from a spiritual perspective where we're able to kind of step back from those closest to us and remain open and loving and kind of non-judgmental, but you know, it's a much calmer place as I experienced it than being in the emotional turmoil of the relationship and the testing, the constant testing of myself as a mother. So it was really wonderful actually. And this week, another image that came, you may well have seen this piece of artwork by Klimt he paints quite a lot of goddesses and he paints Pallas Athena. And what kind of came to me is about Pallas Athena, if we embody her, is very kind of shoulders facing forward, and she holds a spear. So you can hold your spear if you like, and even the act of going like this makes you feel different, like you have power, you have the presence of your physical being, your mind um, is working in a different way. And I talked in some of the others, maybe the shadow side, about the use of cunning and things which are considered like not good feminine qualities. But when we're faced with violence, oppression, judgment, whatever's coming at us, can we meet it shoulders on with the spear? And there's also another way round, how are people meeting us? Do they meet us face on, shoulders on? I had a healing this week. I've been seeing the same healer for a while, who I've also mentioned in the shadow work I've been doing. And one of the things that happens in my body, I've got quite profound hip problems that come and go. And it's like my body twists like this. And it's like, no, and it's almost like Pallas Athena literally is straightening me out like this. Um, and so it's kind of like the way our whole posture works as well. So I just want you to feel into that, maybe when you're in a stressful situation, what is your body doing? Is it cringing? Is it turning away? And can you hold your spear, lift up your chin, and be like Pallas Athena? And then she has this incredible Medusa shield, like breastplate. Um, yeah, so here we have these two kind of scary women archetypes combined as one. Um, and uh, and I've said before, I like to feel the presence of Medusa as Pallas Athena honoring her, even though she hurt her and she killed her. By having her as a shield, she's actually honoring that. And reading the Medusa book, there's something about Medusa being hidden away in a cave. And then now she's out in the world on Pallas Athena's breastplate. So she's come kind of full circle, that she's there as this powerful, like a Kali energy, because Kali cuts off the heads of demons, and she's standing on the demonic forces. And it feels like with Pallas and Medusa combined, we can actually be kitted up on some level inside ourselves to take on, outwit, camouflage ourselves when we're in dangerous situations. So I'll finish this little bit with, so it was interesting coming across a character in a book this week who really embodied this. So this book I'm reading is called The Rising of the Sun by E.J. Francis. And E is Elizabeth, and it's a woman called Beth, who I actually know, and she lives in Glastonbury. And it's a very interesting book. It's about timelines and alchemy. It's really cool if you're into that kind of thing. Anyway, there's the situation where a woman has been tricked into a relationship with a really dodgy guy, and she's vulnerable. Her husband just died, and he persuades her to come and live with him in London. But it turns out that he's very dangerous, and maybe I know in my life, especially when I was younger, I encountered some really dangerous men that I had inadvertently stepped into relationship with. So it's that kind of scenario. And and in the middle of all that, this character called Kate comes along. And Kate has taken, when she was a child, her brother stole an elixir of light from an alchemist, a powder. And he gave his sister a teaspoonful of the stuff in her milk to see what would happen to her. And because she's had this, she became an enlightened being, and she's now probably like a couple of 100 years old, even though she looks like maybe our age, you know. And and she comes into this flat and she takes on this violent guy and she persuades him just to leave and walk out. And it's so interesting because what she says to this young lad who's there is that she spoke directly to the soul of the violent man. So every part, even the most evil, violent person has a good part, and she spoke directly to that part. And and she had such command, like Pallas Athena, that he had to go. Um, and I don't know if I could do that, but I know I did do it. I mentioned that when I was younger, I found myself in a really dangerous situation, and I spontaneously talked my way out of it by being really friendly and not afraid. And so I think somewhere inside us, we have this archetype that can respond in that kind of quite cool, totally in charge way. And though it feels like we need that so much in the world um, because the world is full of tyrants and people who want to use violence to get richer, basically. And Pallas Athena can be a force of good and power against that kind of tyrannical force. And the tyrannical force is both within us and out there in these kind of people we see in the world doing their stuff. And in fact, Pallas Athena can be tyrannical as well. So, you know, cut, when she when she gets Perseus to take off Medusa's head, and she's various things in her mythology where she behaves like a tyrant too. So this force can be used for both good and evil. So she has both those sides potentially. Okay, so that's let's see what time we're at. That's a bit of a sharing about Pallas Athena generally. Um, so just to share a little bit about my own Pallas Athena. So I have her in the 55, which is all to do with victimization and freedom. So really feel the victim is the one like that. The freedom is this one with the spear. And but I've been more tuned into the 63, which has to do with doubt, inquiry, and it's the city of truth. Um, and this week, yeah, there was something that came up around doubt and truth. So when I'm contemplating a gene key, I always try and read it, or I listen to the audio. And I read it, and there's one sentence that kind of stood out to me, is that through all the permutations of doubt and inquiry, you come to the realization that the path of doubt is truth. And that's like, wow. Um, I remember feeling that with there's another gene key where it says a similar thing, the path of struggle is the path. It's not like somewhere else, this is the journey. Um, and I was reflecting on at the time when I read it, like how many different spiritual paths I've explored in this life. So I've been an atheist when I left school and a political activist. My parents were evangelical Christians, so I kind of really rejected Christianity in my early part of my life. And then I got very interested in Buddhism. I've been through um, this group I talked about, these women I walked, we spent 10 years in this shamanic practice of wilderness medicine walks. And now here on Soul Tribe, really starting to understand deeply the power of Kundalini yoga. Um, and actually, the 63rd gene key is one of the gene keys that's specifically about yoga, because yoga is the way that you yourself can influence the frequency that you're living at. So I know quite a few of us here do the daily practice. And if you don't, think about doing it, because that regularity of half an hour a day definitely keeps the transmutation rolling over, and moments of low frequency are kind of more easily transmuted, I think, through yoga. And I'm not deeply into the yoga practice, but I think I'm doing what I need to do in this lifetime. And then I've come back to the Christ consciousness as well. Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary, actually feel like my main kind of spiritual essence at the moment. But all these paths have been about doubt, and is it this one or is it this one? And but in the end, they've all just woven perfectly together. So I don't have to question whether one was wrong and one was right, because they were just all part of my journey to be here. And it feels like a consciousness of truth to be able to see the good in all spiritual teachings, and not reject any of them really. Just inquire into what is in them for you, or what is in them for the world. Okay, so that's my little share. Um, I wanted to just put in a bit of a framework around sharing. Um, we should be getting a few new people in, maybe from when we start on Vesta, but we'll begin today. So a few of us here are in a Delta group as well. So if you could not share about the Delta in this group, but save that for the Delta group, otherwise the whole thing gets confused, and people not in the Delta group, are going to feel a bit strange about not being in it. Um, So begin talking about your gene keys. You can talk about your personality, design, or both. But stick to the subject of Pallas Athena and your contemplation. So, give us something of what Pallas Athena has been for you about. Um, and so just seeing if we go for about 7 minutes each today, we've got time for that. And if you go over that, I'm going to open the mic and ding my little bowl. And if you hear that, if you could start winding up. Okay, but 7 minutes is quite long, actually. So hopefully you'll get through it. If you stay focused, this thing about get to the quintessence of what this particular contemplation has been about for you. Okay, so there's a bit of a practice run. Okay, so I'm going to pause. I'm going to stop the recording as well.